Hello and welcome to another episode of the Brightsiding podcast. I'm your host, Erica Bogdan, and I'm here today to introduce a very special guest, the one and only Imari. If you are in the know on the things that happen behind the scenes to get Brightsiding up and running, you'll know that he has been a huge influence over the years. I've worked with him on and off in a coaching capacity since 2021. And he's also become a close personal friend and creative confidant over the years. So it feels especially poignant and timely that we had this conversation in July of 2025. This will be, as this is airing, it will be August, but this is the last official interview of the Brightsiding podcast before I rebrand. And it's especially special to have Imari as the last Brightsiding guest because he's really seen this project grow up. The first time I decided to work with him, Brightsiding was in its infancy. I had been writing the newsletter for just about a year, and I was ready to get more serious and clear on what my intentions for the project were. And that initial coaching session was pretty foundational to what Brightsiding has become. During that time, we really worked together to define the why of this project. And he challenged me in a lot of ways to be very specific and clear on the intention behind it all. And I am eternally grateful for that initial round of coaching in everyone's sense. I've done 3 official rounds with him and have had countless kind of intermediate check-ins and phone calls and philosophical conversations about creativity and determination and all of the things over the years. So yeah, it's been such a beautiful thing to watch our relationship grow and to have found a coach that has seen this project and me through so much growth over the years. After that first round in 2021, I worked with him again in 2023. During that time, I realized I wanted to take Brightsiding full time, and that is when I got really serious about my writing practice. That's when I created my first Brightsiding business plan. And this past spring, when I got back from Asia, we did a rapid fire 3-month round of coaching because I knew when I got back from my travels that I needed some training wheels when I returned to New York. And I just needed some accountability and a creative collaborator, if you will, to help me stay on track. And I had a lot of clarity when I got back from Asia on the things I wanted to accomplish. But what I love about Imari is that he is a real thought partner in so much of the work that I've done and creates a really safe container for me, and I'm sure all of his clients, to create with intention and show up as the version of themselves that they're really proud of. Throughout our work over the years, I think I've learned a lot about my value system and how important integrity is to me, and something that I really admire about Imari and brings me back to working with him time and time again is that he also is someone who really shows up with integrity and lives a very value-driven life in his own way. So thanks for tuning in. Link to all of Imari's contact in the show notes and in the bio. If you have any questions about if coaching is a good thing for you to pursue or want to have a conversation with me about what my experience has been like, I am always more than happy to chat. It's also worth noting that over the years, I've done coaching in combination with therapy most of the time. I've been out of therapy for the past year or so, but I think it is just a really great thing to do in your life when you need yeah, you need an accountability partner, and you are looking to take action and are serious about seeing certain things through. I think I'm a very determined and ambitious person, and sometimes to really unleash that ambition and to channel it in the right way, having a coach support me and keep me honest and keep me on track is a really, really good thing. So this conversation dives into Imari's coaching style, his journey to become a coach, and it was a really beautiful conversation. And even though we've had a relationship for so long now, I even learned a ton about him. So I hope you enjoy. I hope you work with him. And if nothing else, I hope this sparks some inspiration for any creative projects that you're working on or anything that you are reflecting on in the realm of living your best life. So thank you so much for tuning in, and I hope you enjoy. And we're live. Hi, Imari.
Hello.
Welcome to the Brightsiding podcast. This is so exciting. I feel very excited for all of my interviews, but I've been looking forward to this all week.
You're so sweet, man. Jesus. I wish everybody I'm sorry, I know I'm cutting you off, but anybody who's like listening, I wish you could see like the look of joy on her face when she says that. It's quite endearing.
I mean it. And we just finished a pretty intense 3 months of working together, our third round of working together. We met in 2021. It was either New Year's Eve or New Year's Day, 2020, going into 2021.
Oh, yeah.
So we've been in each other's lives for 5 years, and it's pretty amazing to reflect on all of the life that we've both lived in that time. I feel like this is such a fun moment to be recording since we just came off of our last round. And I know I was joking during our last session that this is my way of getting one more with you. As I was preparing my questions, I don't think this is actually going to be so much about me, but about you. And I feel like when we did meet the first time virtually, that fated New Year's Day or New Year's Eve, I was just like, yeah, this seems like a good vibe. And within 5 minutes, I was like, cool, like send me the paperwork and let's get going. And I don't think I actually like really asked you any questions other than maybe like, so what do we do next? What's the vibe?
When do we start?
And as I was preparing some questions very casually, I was like, wow, these might have been good questions to ask Imari before I started working with him. And the first question is, how did you become a coach? I kind of know, but not really. Here's what I think I know. You're working in film, video editing,
correct?
Filmmaking,
directing. Yeah, but so far
directing. So good. You went viral with something, and that was a big deal. And then you burnt yourself out. You leave film. And then at some point you become a coach, but I don't know the in-between and I don't know how many years that was. I don't know what the journey to becoming a coach was and why you became a coach at all. So let's start there. Tell me about it.
Okay. A fantastic start. And might I say, the fact that we're having this conversation 4 or 5 years later is kind of nuts, because I'll speak for myself, but I feel this way with like all of my clients, but especially you. I feel like we know each other very well. So to have such like a fundamental question that we're addressing 5 years later feels like it's very interesting. But I love it, and it's great, and this is where we are, and this is what's happening. Yes, you have put together a lot of clues and deduced a lot of the Imari lore. I'll summarize it with this. I would say I was a filmmaker for like almost a decade. You know? I was a filmmaker because I identified pretty early on that I wanted to make a difference in people's lives. And I thought the most creative and inspired and farthest reaching way to do that was through film. That was what I believed. I started taking film seriously in like late 2010. And I went all in 2012. Like started my first company, staying up late until like 3:00 a.m. every day. Bartering with teachers so I could get free hard drives and stuff like that. That was 2012. I started a film festival. Um, yeah, so that was right around 2012. And that journey took me all the way up until 2017 when I got asked to be the lead director at Jubilee. Jubilee Media is like a, I'm sure we've talked about it at some point in one of our sessions, but anybody can look it up. A lot of people either know what Jubilee is or they've seen a video of Jubilee and didn't know that they were watching a Jubilee video.
Mm.
Yeah, but it's basically a production company out in LA, and they make videos that are, in theory, meant to bring people together and challenge the way that people think and introduce nuanced thinking into like very polarizing arguments and conversations. And so I was the first director there. And so I directed their videos, had a couple viral hits, like you said, some shows that are like, might I add, being ripped off to this day. He said with zero resentment. Yeah, so I directed a couple shows. Middle Ground is what people would most know me for. I also created the Secrets series that's on there, and a couple others. And to me, at the time, in theory, similar to you at Google, was like, when I make it to this place, when I make it to this spot, when I make it to this thing that I put on my resume, life will be complete. And to me, it was like, all right, well, if I can get to the point where millions of people are watching my videos and I'm making videos that I can, for the most part, say are adding value rather than distracting people, then I would be successful. And then I did that, and hundreds of millions of people saw my work. And it seemed that the feeling that I was chasing was actually getting farther away the closer I got to my goals. I'll put it that way. Yeah. And so, you know, we're on a podcast, so I guess I can give you the juicy details. We're on the Erica Bogdan Brightsiding podcast, after all. So where would we be without some emotion? I remember there was a day after months of struggling at Jubilee. I remember it was one of those days where I was working later than everybody else. And I remember that even the CEO left before me, and he walked out and he closed the door. And I remember the second that he closed the door, I just started bawling tears because I was so unhappy and I was so unfulfilled and I was so stressed out and I was so overwhelmed. And I didn't feel like I was getting anything out of it that I needed. Yeah. And there was also other politics and, job dynamics that, a lot of people experienced that was also involved. But there was a deep sense of, I have given my entire life to this thing for the last couple of years, and I don't feel any better. And it's fair to say that in some ways I feel worse. And so, long story short, I get depressed. Me being depressed means I don't make as good stuff. Not making as good stuff means that the people who sign my checks are not happy, which leads to them firing me. So I get fired, which, we talk about like fundamental, life-changing, pivotal moments in your life. That was definitely one of them for me. So I get fired, and a couple weeks before I had gotten fired, one of my, I guess you could say bosses, but one of my best friends, he had been like, "Hey, Mari, you're like the director of like a lot of these videos and you have to like lead all these crews. You should probably do some like leadership development classes." And I was like, "Oh, sure, why not?" And so he had signed me up for this like leadership development class course months ago. And I remember after I got fired, I like looked at my calendar and I was like, "What is this leadership thing that I have next week that I was still signed up for and that was already paid for?" And so I went. And I'm sure me and you will get into it, but going to that course is one of the most fundamental defining moments of who I believe myself to be today. There is a strong chance that if I did not find myself accidentally in that course 8-9 years ago, I would be dead. I would not be alive. Me and you would not be having this conversation. So it's not an exaggeration. I truly believe that, because I was on a downward spiral path of just complete empty void of anything resembling self-love or self-respect or self-value.
It's amazing that you went to that. Putting myself in that situation, I would have been so bitter and resentful of what had gone down, maybe, that I would have been like, I'm not going to a leadership training. Like, that's the last thing I would have wanted to do.
That's fair.
So it's really amazing that you went. Was there any resistance to going, or was it just a surrendered, let's go, see what this is about?
That's crazy. That you bring that up. I've never even thought about like, that bitterness could have gotten in the way of me doing that. Um, I had nothing to do, Erica. Job. I had no job. I had no desire to work in film anymore after that. And it was literally just like, well, this thing is on my calendar. So here we go. It's like,
Yeah.
what else would I do with my time? I think everything that I have and do and am in my life now is a direct result of ending up in that workshop in 2018.
Do you think if you had still been employed, it would have affected you the same way?
Like if I had still been working at Jubilee and gone to the workshop,
Yeah.
amazing question. It's almost like you're a professional podcaster and interviewer. I love it. Make me think about things I've never thought about before. Um, I definitely that would be a completely different Imari that we'd be talking to.
Yeah.
Not in a bad way, like a worse way, but just like a completely different. Because the potency of that program, there's no way you walk out of it and you're not changed.
Hmm.
But maybe I would have been changed, and all of the like juju and energy and motivation and skill development that I built in that program might have just been applied into what I was doing there,
Yeah.
which maybe would have been cool, question mark. But I definitely don't regret that, but also I've never thought of that until this
Yeah.
moment.
Yeah. Okay, so tell me more about this program. Like, what made it so impactful for you?
Yeah, 100%. So, for context, for the people listening, I grew up in a childhood that I have absolutely zero desire to repeat, and I have absolutely zero desire that anybody else has to go through in their life. If that program and me becoming coach and a speaker is what's defined this part of my life, I would say what defined the first part of my life is the relationship with my mom and being abused and being thrown out of the house and being all sorts of things that come with feeling like the person who gave birth to you is someone who doesn't want you here on this planet. Yeah. And so when I went to this program, yes, it was quote unquote leadership development, but a lot of it was just self awareness. A lot of it was just like, hey, what are the experiences that have made you who you are? And
Mm.
especially the experiences that you don't want to talk about, especially the experiences that hurt, especially the experiences that make you very angry. And how can we open those experiences up in a way that gives you a fresh perspective on not just what happened, but who you could be as a result? And I feel like that's something I fundamentally believe to this day. It's like, I've never met a human being who's not undergone suffering. The question is, are you going to make the suffering worth it? And it is my job, my imperative, and my commitment that like all the suffering that I've been through is going to be very much worth it
Yeah.
for myself and for other people.
Yeah, that's so interesting. And so much of the work that we have done together over the years has been very confronting. And you, I think your particular flavor of coaching is to really face the things that you don't want to talk about head on. Or maybe that's just also a result of the type of personal questioning that I've gone to you with and the type of I've, on one hand, signed up to answer those questions myself and kind of go
Mhm.
there with Brightsiding and in my own
Mhm.
work. But do you think that was the first time you were really given a space and a forum to take a look at these things that you had been maybe were you dealing with them at all in any other way up until that point?
Yeah, I'd been to therapy, which is coaching adjacent. And this is not a knock to therapy. Like, I love the the therapists and the experiences that I've had for years. And I can, without a doubt, say that in the first 5 days of that program, I got as much value as about 3 years of therapy. And
Wow.
that's not a knock to therapy. That's just a
Yeah,
fact.
yeah.
Yeah. There's a difference between talking about something and being put in an experience where you have no choice but to look at yourself differently. Right. And so what I mean by that is We're going to get technical for a second, but I'll try to make it as exciting and as inspiring as possible for your rapid listeners. There's a lot of different types of therapy, and clinically, statistically, the one that has been the most effective over time has been exposure therapy. So it's
Mm.
when somebody comes into a therapist's office and they're like, I'm so afraid of spiders and it's ruining my life because all I can think about is spiders and da 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 da. It's like, I get it. I hear you. Fantastic. We're just going to put not even a spider, but one spider leg in the corner of the room. And let's just sit here. And you're like, I can't do it. I can't do it. And you're like, no, I know, but let's just sit here for a minute. How do you feel? Have you died? Are you okay? And they're like, oh, I guess, but we definitely can't do two spider legs. And then the therapist says, okay, let's bring in two spider legs. And then there's two spider legs in the room. And all of a sudden, eventually, you expose yourself enough to the thing that you think is completely existentially threatening to you. And eventually, you're like, wow, I am completely okay. Yeah. And so the program that I went through is like a condensed, highly concentrated version of exposure therapy over the course of
Mm.
those 5 days. And I know it makes it sound very intense and very scary, and I get it. And that might make people be like, nope, I'll stick to 12 years of therapy for me. And I get it, fair. But one thing about me is that I am not trying to waste time in this life. I want the highest ROI for the least amount of time possible. So that's just what it was. And to be fair, that program is 3 levels. The first level is 5 days, second level is 5 days, and the third level is 4 months. And I
Wow.
went through all 3 levels, and I needed all 3 levels to get the amount of value that I got.
So, did you decide to go through the subsequent programming immediately after those first 5 days? And okay, yeah, I'll start with that question. And but the second question is, so you know what's coming. What was the path from that workshop to coaching?
Yes. Yeah. Good questions. I told this story actually literally like maybe 72 hours ago. I'll tell it to you now. On the last day of this first program, the first 5 days, you've been crying for 5 days and you've addressed all your mama trauma, and my God, you're like, I can do anything now, right? And on the last day, they have you close your eyes and they put you through a meditation, and they're like, I know you feel like you can do anything now. I know you feel like the last 5 days have been the most transformational 5 days of your life. But next week we have the second level course for $1,000, and if you want to take that second course, you stand up and you say, "Yeah, me!" Right? And I remember I'm like closing my eyes listening to this pseudo meditation slash sales pitch, and I was like, "Absolutely not." I was like, I was like, I was so cynical. I was like, arms crossed. I was like,
Yeah,
"You're just trying to sell me in this
yeah.
multi-level marketing scheme, and da 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 da, and you're just trying to pilfer more money out of me, whatever, whatever." Which fair enough. And you're supposed to signal your commitment to level 2 by standing up and yelling or making some kind of sound. And I was like, I'm not moving. I'm gonna sit on this chair. Y'all ain't gonna get me. Like, absolutely not. I'm gonna take what I got out of these 5 days and I'm gonna run with it.
Uh huh.
And they're doing this countdown, whatever, and I'm seated. I'm not moving. And then call it the voice of God, call it my future self, call it whatever you want to call it. Didn't even tell me anything. It just asked the question. It asked the question, what if you go back to the Imari that you were before these 5 days? And not only what if you go back to the Imari that you were before these 5 days, what if you go back to the Imari that you were before these 5 days, and that's the father that you give your son, and that's the father that you give your daughter, which would suck. And it would suck because then also that there was a chance that you could have given them something more. And as soon as that came to my mind, I stood up. And I was like, fine, here is $1,000. um,
Oh,
yeah. And keeping in mind, I didn't have a job. So it wasn't like I was like,
yeah,
oh, here's $1,000 out of my next paycheck. It was like, here's $1,000 out of the 3,500 that I have to my name,
yeah,
just to put it in perspective. You know what I
yeah.
mean? And so yeah, I did that. did the second level, and skeezy upselling schemes aside, the second level was definitely more powerful than the first 5 days. Like that, they weren't, that wasn't snake oil stuff. Like the second level made the first level look like a piece of cake. Yeah. Like I said, I eventually did do the third level, which is a 4-month process, and it was very intense. But if we're talking bang for buck, that second level was what got me. Yeah.
And how soon after the first week was the second part of the program?
Like a week and a half.
Okay,
Like
so you're jumping right in.
Pretty tight. I'm like,
yeah. You're like,
go.
This is my job now. I'm doing this. Okay.
Yeah. I could have been like, oh, let me talk to my boss and see if he's okay with me taking the time off. I was like, oh yeah, I have no job. So that makes this decision it makes this decision a little easier. So yeah, did the second level. And then after the second level was done, I did the third level. And I want something to be very clear for you and anybody listening. Like when the third level was ending, a lot of people were like, oh my God, I understand transformation now. And like, I love this. And I want to be a coach. I was like, you people are so corny. You guys just go through a little personal development and you're like, I can teach everybody. I was like, no, I'm not doing that. That's corny. That's so cliche. It's so cringe, whatever. Right. And yet, as the program was ending, I kept getting reflections from people that the way that they witnessed me, because I really started to come into my own in those 3 months. They were like, you're a powerful person. And like when you speak, it makes a difference. And you really care about people. And all those things are true. And people would suggest that I should go get into personal development. But again, no, it's corny, cringe. I'm not one of these fake social media gurus. I don't want to be, you know what I mean? I don't want to be one of these people. And so I left the third level of the program. Now here I am feeling like I can take over the world, but not necessarily having a job, right? And I thought to myself, I'm like, okay, well, what skills do I have? And what do people come to me for? And a lot of people come to me because they're like, oh, Mari, you're really authentic, especially at the time with like social media. And people are like, I just want to be more authentic on social media. And keep in mind, I was a filmmaker. So I was like, okay, well, I have the clout to say like, hey, I know how to like build an artist brand and like to the point where you can like make a difference. And hey, I can help you build this brand while staying authentic. So I first started helping people like craft their brands and keep them authentic. And you see where we're going with this, Erica Buck. So I would like help people have a clear presence online, but have that presence not be a manufactured, cliche kind of corny thing. And eventually I realized, shit, I'm coaching these people. That's what's happening here is I'm asking a person, well, what do you want to do on this planet? Who do you think you are? What do you bring that nobody else can bring? What are you most passionate about? Like, yeah, you get it.
Yeah.
And eventually I was like, damn it, I am now coaching. And so eventually that turned from like creative artist brand building to just coaching artists specifically. And coaching artists led to me doing my first couple speaking gigs, supporting artists and creatives at companies, specifically in companies like the one I was in. So I would do some speaking gigs and that would lead to more clients, which would lead to more clients that were not necessarily artists, but just general people. Yeah. And then it kind of just went on from there. And eventually I was speaking at Harvard and speaking at Google, courtesy of you, speaking at Yale and giving my TED Talk. And, that is the journey of how we have arrived to this conversation.
Oh my God. I love that. And I love that you didn't want to be a coach, but just inevitably ended up becoming one. I don't know if we've talked about this, but one of the many things I'm very fascinated by right now is the concept of inevitability and how we can resist and say no, thank you to the voice or the thing or the idea or the job, whatever it might be, but we end up doing it anyway, or the trip or like whatever. But certain paths do have this inevitable way of becoming realized or walked on, I guess, to stay in the metaphor. And that's so funny that you were like not intending to do that at all. When you left that program, what did you think you were going to do? Like, it sounds like there was a self-reflection of like, okay, I'm going to go be like maybe a brand consultant or like go just support people with branding. But was there I don't know, when you, maybe going back to when you got fired, was there any sort of like, okay, well, I'm just going to go do this instead, or I'm going to go find another director job?
Which, thank you for asking, because I'm like, why have I not thought about this in like 10 years? Oh my God, who am I? Yeah, as you talk about it, I'm like, oh, when I was in the third level of that program, I started working on a script, a film script. I completely forgot about this until this moment, right here, right now. Yeah, well done, man. Yeah, because when I left Jubilee, I was like, I was just turned off from anything having to do with the camera at all. But because of my work, I wasn't really in the film world, like the documentary and like the long form. I was in this kind of like YouTube space. And that's how I was
Mm,
thinking about film, you know? And I was like, I don't want to be in this anymore because it's all about like, how can I be more like Mr. Beast and how can I get your attention faster? And I was like, I
yeah.
hate this. Like, I
Yeah.
hate this. But then I started working on a script, which I completely forgot about until this moment. And in that script, I was, it was a full film, so it wasn't just like kind of catchy YouTubey vibes.
Yeah.
And I was working with a producer. I completely forgot about it until this moment. So I think after I graduated from the program, I think my intention was to like just ride the script and just like take it to Hollywood and see if anybody would give this young boy a chance.
Were you in LA at this point?
Yeah, this whole time.
Okay.
I ended up in LA because of Jubilee. Like I never would have
Okay.
come to LA if it wasn't for Jubilee. So
That was my next question. How did you land there? Because you're
yeah,
Maryland, born and raised,
correct.
right? Yeah.
Yep, born and
I know
raised.
some things, but I really don't know a lot
My
about
name
the
is
Imari
Amari.
biography.
We haven't talked about that yet.
Wow. This is making me wonder how what I did learn about you before we started coaching. Like you must have told me some of this, but it's so funny to me just how little I know
To
for
be
how.
fair, when we're working together, we're talking about you, so it's like
No, totally. But I think if anything, I'm just laughing at this is my total pattern in working with people in general is
yeah,
just going off of a vibe that's like good enough for me. And like the credentials, the background does not matter, if anything, that's like interesting to learn later. But
yeah,
it's truly just like all about the energy and the vibe. And I think when I
yeah,
first came to you, this is all like making sense in retrospect that you were working with artists, working on building their brands, working on getting to the bottom of
yeah,
are you here to contribute, and why can you contribute that?
yeah.
Because I had just started Brightsiding.
Mm-hmm.
I had started Brightsiding in December of 2019, and we
Mm-hmm.
met the year later. During COVID, during the lockdown, I had all of this time on my hands to really dedicate to Brightsiding. And if I don't think Brightsiding would be what it is today, or I don't think I would be where I am today with my creative work if I didn't have lockdown to just force me to figure out how to fill all of this time that I
Mm-hmm.
all of a sudden had. Because prior to that, I was mid 20. We met and started working together when I was 25. And prior to that, I was just early 20s living in New York, never sitting still. I had so much energy, and all I wanted to do was be outside and see everything and do everything. And my whole personality and brand was wrapped up in like this never sitting still kind of vibe. And so when I finally did have time to sit still, and I had just on a whim really started writing this newsletter, it made me dedicate myself to something, or suddenly had this thing to pour myself into, and I had to redirect all of this energy that I was spending skateboarding around the city and just being a little chaos monster into an actual creative project. And by the time we had started working together, I had gone through like a brand boot camp kind of thing that was really more
Mm-hmm.
aesthetic and like visual branding.
Mm.
And through that, I met Lucy, who introduced us.
Shout out
And
Lucy.
I think she just saw in me that I was looking to take Brightsiding to the next level, but more than that, looking to find a deeper connection to myself whether she saw that consciously or not, I don't know, but she had the good sense to be like, I should connect you with Imari. I was not looking for a coach. I had never done coach. Maybe I had done some coaching before, but nothing quite as intense as we had done. But when we started working together, we must have been really focused on brand building. And that maybe was the one thing that we did talk about, that I was like, okay, cool, he's done brand building. That sounds good. But maybe we initially started with the intention to like build the Brightsiding brand out, but it immediately turned into such a different sort of like relationship and a different sort of coaching. Like we were talking about Brightsiding, but we were really excavating the why and the purpose of what that project meant to me and like what I wanted to bring to the world, which was, or at least that's how I remember it. And I think that's what's, I think that like that time, that first, I think we probably did 3 to 6 months together that first time was so formative and so impactful to me, and really helped me understand like what the goal was. And I think we maybe set goals of like, okay, I want to like reach a certain audience, but, or maybe I went into that time being like, yeah, I want to grow my audience. I want to reach people. I want to be bigger and louder and whatever. But I think what made such a difference that first round of coaching was, okay, well, like what do you actually want to like bring to this? And what is the purpose of that? And like, cool, you can get an audience, you can get accolades, whatever it might be, but like, what are you bringing to it? And I think that's when I really started to say like, I want to bring honesty, and I want to talk about things that are difficult for me to talk about. I want this to be like a very vulnerable place and push myself to do all of those things. And now I'm just kind of rambling and waxing poetic about that first time that we worked together.
I love it.
Like when you start working with someone, are you surprised when the work, or does the work always transition to this like kind of deeper, more reflective thing? Or I don't know, like what's the process from like that first phone call with someone to the work revealing itself to be like so much deeper than what someone might come in with?
Right. Great question. You know, you've experienced for years. I love like just gleaning little tidbits of like truth from our conversations. And as you're talking, I'm like, yeah, I mean, for anybody listening, it's like if you really give yourself to something, if you really give yourself to a project, a job, specifically one that you actually care about, you will learn something about yourself in the process. Like it is inevitable, right?
Yeah.
You will not be the same person on the other side of the project as you were at the beginning. And so for me to transition that and segue that into an answer to your question, if somebody's just coming to me and they're like, I just want to build my brand, I just want to hit 1 million followers, and like that's their only goal, and they're like, I'm not interested in any of this personal development stuff, don't talk to me about like who I am and what my values are, I'm like, personally, I wouldn't take on that client. I'm not interested in that. The only reason I set goals for people, especially goals that feel outside of your comfort zone, shout out to Erica's workshop that's coming up in a couple of weeks. The only reason that I have people set a goal that feels uncomfortable is because it's going to have you confront something that you haven't confronted. It's going to have you confront a fear, or it's going to help you uncover a passion that you really care about, right? To me, that is the purpose of why we're setting these goals. It's not necessarily the goal. The goal is great. Sure, you're going to host a Brightsiding workshop. Everybody's going to realize how much of a genius you are. And it's going to be great. It's going to be fantastic. But then what I'm really curious about is like the version of you that I talked to a couple weeks ago that was like, I don't know, is this too soon? Like, I don't know if I'm ready for this. Maybe we should. And it's like, that's the work. Like, that's the juicy stuff. That's the whole reason why we're doing this workshop in the first place. Yeah. The rest of it is, it's like whatever, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. I worked in a YouTube company for many years, and we went from 300,000 followers to 10 million followers. Like,
whoa.
Yeah, it's like, I know the tricks that can get you attention. I know how to craft a video that's going to be all, ultimate engagement. It's like, I just don't care, man.
Yeah.
I don't care enough. So if that's the only reason somebody's coming to me, it's like, it's not that interesting. But what I am interested in is like when a CEO comes to me and they're like, hey, Mari, I want life coaching. Yes, because I want to take my business to the next level, but I want to become a better leader. I want to realize the part of me that's afraid to take this
Mm.
company through the next phase of its, development. I want to work with a creative who's like, hey, I had a lot of success and I have my number one New York Times bestseller, but like, I feel like I don't have anything left in me. It's like, no, we're going to find out if there's something in there. And we're working together to see what it takes for you to realize that you are unstoppable and there's always ideas in you and there is always a leader in you. We're not necessarily working to get you another number one New York Times bestseller because, as somebody who has had the viral success, I can promise you, who cares? Like, who cares, bro?
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like the satisfaction of meeting that sort of goal is nothing compared to the realization of how much work you've put in to get to that goal or how much you've grown. I feel like the commercial success, so to speak, is
Mm-hmm.
just a side benefit of
Yeah.
the like deeper personal growth that happens. And
Mm-hmm.
this is interesting because this brings me to a question that I've been really curious to ask you, which is, as a coach, how do you know when to really apply the pressure and the discipline and the rigidity and when to ease up or be flexible with these goals and with this plan? Because I think
Mm-hmm.
one of the things that always happens with our coaching is, well, first of all, the goals always change by the end, which
Mm-hmm.
is great. But there's kind of a cycle where it's like start out really disciplined, really grind mode, have a
Yeah.
mental break. Me, Erica, have a mental breakdown. And then it gets a little loosey goosey in like what the routine looks like and what the structure looks like. And I think you do a
Mm.
good job of giving me the space to give myself what I need and to say, okay, Erica, how are we? Making sure we stay on track within
Yeah.
that space of fluidity. So how do you know when, yeah, when to be super hardcore and when to lighten it up?
Amazing question. First of all, it is a dance, right? And so if I'm coming into this and every single conversation we have is David Goggins level, and I'm like, okay, you need to run 10 miles a day. It's like, I'm not coaching, I'm being a caricature at that
Mm,
moment, right?
yeah.
Or if every single time I come into a session with you, which I've seen coaches do, and I'm like, how are we feeling today? Well, let's just go with our emotions and let's just let it flow for today. It's like I'm also not doing what I need to be doing,
Yeah.
right? For me, it's a constant dance between like, okay, I'm reading the person, I'm reading where they're at, and the question for me is like, what is going to most support their becoming? Like, what makes them
Beautiful.
the most well balanced in this moment? As I'm sure anybody who knows Erica will attest, Erica can be like hard on herself. Erica can be like go get her. So it's like, yeah, a lot of times I need to be like, hey, Erica, let's take a breath. Hey, Erica, how are we feeling today? Right? You're like, no, I gotta keep going. Right? And there are some people who I've coached who have experienced a side of me that you just never got to see because you
Yeah.
never needed to see that side. There's there's ways I've talked to some clients that I would just never need to talk to you. Like, look at me. We're not going to work together again for another week if you come in next Tuesday with absolutely nothing done because I'm tired of this and this doesn't work.
That's my nightmare. That is my, like, that gives me full body, like, that makes me so physically uncomfortable. The thought of that.
Look, the fact that you never had to experience it. I don't remember one time I ever had to be like that with you.
No,
But there
never.
are but there are people who have to be like that with every single week, you know? Yeah, I know. Your worst nightmare. But there's one thing I want to point out because it means a lot to me and it came to my mind a couple minutes ago. You were talking about this idea of like, yeah, setting the goals so that in retrospect you can have the appreciation of how far you've come and da 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 da, right? Me and you have been working together for 3 months. I've been seeing you an hour and a half every week for 3 months, right? So 4 times a month. I don't know, it's like 6 hours, whatever, times three, 18, however many hours that is, plus our phone calls. My favorite moment over the course of the last 3 months was on the last day when we reflected through your responses to the Kipo, the little weekly worksheet that we do, and your voice cracked because you realized how far you've come and how much you've done. And I literally, after our session, I went back and I rewatched that moment because it meant so much to me. Like
Oh.
that, the moment where somebody gets to see themselves. That's literally the entire reason why I'm coaching is the moment where all I have to do is hold up to Erica
Mm.
what she's done, and she's like, me? And I'm like, yes,
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
And that, seeing you like your voice crack and like a tear slide out of your eye in that moment, literally made me cry, because I was like, yes, I want every human to have that moment at least once every couple months. Like, I feel like it's
Yeah.
just necessary to just be reminded of who you are.
Yeah, I've been sitting with that moment too lately, and that moment of that last day looking at all of the work. And it was very emotional for me because throughout my career in corporate America, there were so many formal check-ins on what have you done this quarter, where is your growth, what still needs to be worked on, what are the numbers behind the work that you've done, and what do you have to show for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, you saw me in a lot of those moments where that felt so empty and that felt so frustrating to me
Mm-hmm.
because I felt like I was maybe recording all of this output, but it had no reflection on my internal landscape or the experience I was having while working on those things or
Yeah.
what it brought me and what maybe I had been developing skills, but was I growing as a person? It felt like the answer was no a lot of the
Yeah.
time. And since leaving corporate America a year and a half ago, I haven't really taken a step back to take stock of what I've done, or I haven't had those formal check-ins or the performance review sort of thing. And I think with the path that I'm on right now, it can be a big insecurity of mine is I have nothing to show for this past year and a half, even though that's not true.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that was the first time I had that sort of performance review moment, but in a
Yeah.
way that actually felt aligned and in a way that showcased the growth that I experienced while working towards goals instead of these are just the numbers that we hit. This is what happened. And it's
Yeah.
funny because I did come into that last session with that checklist of this is all of the stuff that I've done.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and maybe I had a small reflection on these are the areas of growth or these are the themes that have come up while I've been cranking out newsletters or podcasts and working on
Mm-hmm.
my workshop, blah, 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 blah. But
Mm-hmm.
it was such an emotional thing to realize just how much, yeah, how much evolution had happened on the journey to checking certain boxes or like working towards these
Yeah.
milestones. So yeah, just like very interesting moment to reflect on all that.
Yeah. 1,000%. It's like in corporate America, it's like, okay, cool. We're gonna have our quarterly check-ins. Great, fantastic. That's how you can't manage anything that you can't measure, right? So
Yeah.
yes, cool, great. Check in on these KPIs, but then at the end of the day, if I don't care about these KPIs, like if these have no reflection on me as a person or anything that I actually care about, then it's like even if I quote unquote am growing because we sold more units this quarter, Jim, good job. It's like how empty is it to get a trophy or a medal for a thing that you do not care about? To get a medal of achievement for a thing that you truly know has nothing to do with what you value in your life.
Yeah. And having been there, it is so disorienting and existentially confusing.
Mm-hmm.
It's horrible. It's a horrible feeling.
Terrible feeling.
And it's almost worse when you're getting praise for performance
Mm-hmm.
or driving success on a project or something and
Mm-hmm.
still feeling that emptiness. It's almost like if you're getting a constructive performance review or one that's more okay, you have a lot of work to do, like that was always easier for me to handle because I was like, okay, good, well this feels like shit anyway, so at least I know there's like a lot more work to do or there's something I
Mm-hmm.
can go put myself towards to
Yeah.
like keep growing. But I remember having a specific performance review at Google maybe a year before I left. And it was one of the highest ratings you could get on a project that I had worked super hard on, but left me feeling so empty. And I probably got a raise because of it or a bonus or something. And I just left the office that day. Similar to you, like the CEO left and you were crying. I think I just left the office and I was just like a zombie and I was just like staring into space. I couldn't even like listen to music. I was walking home on autopilot
Jesus.
and I was just like, this this doesn't feel good. Like if that was supposed to be if that's supposed to be the thing I'm working all year to hear, and I'm feeling like this, like that is not good. That is not okay.
That is
Like
depressing.
that is bad. And yeah, it's just, I think one of the things that I love so much about the work that we've done over the years is like, one, uncovering why that felt so bad. And,
Hmm.
I have worked with you on and off over the years while also doing therapy, not in therapy right
Hmm.
now, but I think therapy like played a role in examining that too. But I think so much of the work we've done has been centered on, well, what will make me feel good? And the answer to that has the answers to that question have been really scary at times. Like eventually, I think it was the second time we worked together was when I was like, I have to leave Google. And
Hmm.
that was a really surprising realization to have at the time. I didn't think that was ever going to be the option for me, or the thing that I realized I had to do.
Hmm.
And yeah, I think this is just another anecdote to share that like so much of the work that you go into coaching, so much of the work you do during coaching is so surprising to the version of you that goes into coaching. Like
Yeah.
I would have never expected when we started working together at the beginning of 2021, I would have never expected to like not be at Google anymore, you know?
I saw it
And
coming day
yeah,
one.
yeah, yeah. And I'm again, inevitability, of course that
Yeah.
was, something that had to happen for my personal growth. And it was really important to me to get there. But I
Yeah.
just, it's a long way of saying like, I love how much we've focused on like answering the question, well, what is the work that's going to feel good? And like, how can I use this time that I have on earth to feel fulfilled? And
There it is.
even if that fulfillment is terrifying at times, which it is a lot of the time for me, like it's
Correct.
really so much of I feel like every session I was just like, no, I have to do what? Like,
Yeah,
um,
100%. I I really like that whole little topic we were on right there. It's like you're at a job, you work your ass off, and you get this commendation. Here, good job. And that's supposed to be the highlight, and that's supposed to be the peak. And if anybody is honest with themselves and they look around at the peak and they're like, I hate it here, that's a very good time to change before you start the next round of KPIs to get you to another place that you actually don't want to be. I remember, there's a lot of digital politics involved when you work at a production company like Jubilee. And a lot of times they were just like, what's going to get views, Amari? What's going to get views? What's going to get views? And I remember we did a video that, sure, it was going to get views. It had all the right components. It was cute girl, cute guy, handsome, talking about love. Ugh. And it was like amazing. That video went super viral. I got 35 million views. Do not, have ever not cared.
yeah, yeah,
So what? I was like, what did this do for anybody other than handsome dude talks about love with his girl next door girlfriend? Fantastic. I hated this. This did nothing for me. You guys could have hired an AI to shoot this. There was an
yeah,
AI at the time, but
yeah,
you get the point. And so moments like that, I had to be like, yo, what am I really doing? And I had to ask questions like, well, if I were to go make something, if I were to go create something, what would I make that would make me feel like the feeling that I thought this would make me feel,
yeah,
right? Which is fulfilled, et cetera, et cetera. And those are the kind of questions that you get asked in coaching. Those are the kind of questions I got asked in that program, however many years ago. It's like, what matters to you? Like, what actually matters? What do you actually care about? What would actually happen that would make you feel like I feel complete? And I've had experiences in my life where I've done things, which we can talk about, where at the end of that, I'm like, that's the feeling I was looking for. And it's not this woohoo celebration, I'm
yeah,
famous. It's like, wow, the sense of peace of this is why I was put on this planet. This feeling of like, yeah, and if it all ended right now, I'd be content. If you were, just to get real, it's like That day at Google when they give you that congratulations on being the world's best Googler or automaton, whatever it was. It's like if on that day they give you this award and you're like, yep, this is everything I'm searching for. This is the feeling of fulfillment. This is the closest to peace that I will ever feel. What are we doing? Like, why would you do anything else after that?
Yeah.
Where would the motivation come from? If somebody said, and like I said, to get very real, it's like if they're like, this was the last day of your life, this is the, would you feel like that was worth it?
Hell no. For me, no
Yeah.
way. And I think there was a lot of confusion around that for me because I saw other people experiencing a lot of satisfaction from that, which, by the way, for anyone listening, I think that's amazing. Like, if you can find if you get that feeling from corporate America, that's not wrong. That just was not my experience, or it wasn't my experience in the corporate structures that I have experienced so far. Like,
Yeah.
who knows what the future holds? But I think that's the question. Is this how you want to spend the rest of your life? Would this
Yeah.
be enough? And
Yeah.
maybe I've told you this anecdote before, but my high school quote, which is so fucking eye roll, was from the Shawshank Redemption. And it was, get busy living or get busy dying.
Die.
And honestly, the more I think about it, the more truth I find in that. And the more Erica being deep 8-year-old was like so on the fucking nose with that. And it's so funny because like that actually has informed so much of that sentiment has informed so much of my like personal path.
Yeah.
Over the
It
past
feels
5
very
years.
Erica. Very like 18-year-old Erica.
Yeah, but I'm curious, like answering that question is so confronting when you're working with people. How do you help them make space for those truths that can be really intense? Like for me, when I realized I needed to leave Google, and it took me a while between realizing and actually doing it, like, that was an emotional experience. Like, how do you hold space for that and for people like navigating that? And how do you
Yeah.
encourage people to pursue that truth even when it feels like it's against everything that they've been taught, or it means sacrificing stability? Like what that's like must be a huge part of what you do. So I'd love
Yes.
to know more about that.
1,000%. Another banger of a question by Erica Bogdan. The question is basically like, well, how do you make space for an uncomfortable truth?
Yeah.
And the answer is there's only two things that you need for an uncomfortable truth to come about. One is you have to ask a really good question, right? And I am a big fan of questions. And number two is you have to be the kind of person or have the kind of conversation where no matter how uncomfortable the answer, it feels safe enough to come out, right? Like you would not admit the truth that you want to leave Google to somebody who's like, Erica, you need to stay at Google. Google's your entire
Yeah.
identity, whether it's like a mom or a best friend, you know what I mean? Versus there is nothing that my clients can tell me that I would not accept. There's nothing that they can tell me about who they are or what they want or what they don't like that I would be like, oh, that's terrible.
Yeah.
That's how dare you, And I think that's just to get kind of off on a segue. I think that's why some people stop looking to religion for answers, because a lot of times they felt like they were going to be judged for
Yeah.
what they want or what they desire. Versus I experience myself as somebody who's like, yo, whatever the truth is, I just care that it's out
Yeah.
rather
Yeah.
than I care that it's, not societally acceptable or whatever it is. It's like we can't do anything about it until it's out here. So let's ask a question that makes you confront it, and let's give you the space to let it go.
Yeah. Yeah. And you are excellent at excavating the truth and getting that out of, well, I assume a lot of people, but you're very excellent and still are very excellent at getting that truth out of me, even when I was very resistant to it. Even in moments of like, I feel like we had a lot of moments of like feedback, like me giving you feedback this round of coaching.
Yeah.
And even that was like major growth. And I just so appreciate the way that you are so open to the truth, even if it's crunchy, or even if we don't know what to do with it right away.
Yeah.
And I just think that's that's been such like a beautiful thing to experience. And I've grown so much within those moments of truth. And it's hard. It can be really hard to like say the thing out loud. And I think something I valued about coaching so much is just like having a space to explore these truths, or like say the things out loud that I maybe didn't have anywhere else to like try them on, or to like be like, is this true? Like, this feels really true, and it feels scary to say out loud, but like, why does it feel scary, and is it true? And
Yeah.
I think that's been a huge gift of our work.
Yeah. And I think that's a really good point. It's like there's times where like you'll say something in response to a question, doesn't necessarily mean it's true, right?
Yeah.
Because like somebody say something, I'll be like, do you actually believe that, or did you just want
Yeah.
to try that on? You just want to see how that sounded.
Yeah.
It's like you being like, well, I just feel like I just want to stay at Google forever. I'm like, okay. Is that really how you feel? It's like, no, I just needed to like get that out that I'm afraid of leaving Google. I'm afraid of not having the security,
Yeah.
So it's like make space for the whole thing, even if the first thing that comes out of your mouth isn't necessarily the answer.
And on the topic of questions and asking questions, have you always been so probing? I feel like you're a very curious person, and to your earlier point, you love getting to like the meaning of things. And I think we share that. We love really honing in on like, what do you mean when you say this thing?
Yes.
But how do you come up with your questions? How do you come up with the questions that you ask to meet the people you're working with in these really intense moments?
Another great question. I don't think it's a quality that I've developed. I think I've just always been like, but why? Like I've just always been the kid that's been like, this doesn't make sense. I need a better explanation for this. Like this isn't satisfying. So I would say that like, yes, there's a lot of the current life and identity that I've built over time, but that's one thing that's just been like, that came out of the womb. I've just like always been very curious. The way that I've nurtured that is by not demonizing the curiosity. By not, it's like when the question comes, let it rip. It's like holding in a sneeze. It's like don't hold it in, let it out. And I'm lucky and I'm thankful that my job is literally just to ask very good questions. So I have the space to just let it fly, and so my brain is naturally programmed to just have a spark of curiosity and let it rip, versus most people are like, ooh, they might interpret that wrong, or that's not an appropriate question to ask, or ooh, and then use it or lose it. And eventually if you keep doing that, eventually you stop asking very good questions. And it is literally my job to ask questions, and it is my nature to be very curious. So that's my response.
I love that. Yeah, it's a muscle that it sounds like you've built and that you now use very easily. That comes very easily to you. Yeah.
Yeah, it's very satisfying.
Oh, I know. It's satisfying to be on the receiving end of these questions too. Like I love it so much. And I think I get a lot of inspiration even for podcasting from the conversations that we've had and the way you direct conversations and let things flow.
We did some work around that, like your questions for the researchers or your question for your podcasters. We had your list and we're like, okay, well, hold on. What is this question actually asking?
Yeah. And I feel like that's so much of the work that we do in general. It's just like, what do we actually mean? What do we actually want to do? What are we like? It's just getting a level or two or five deeper on the what and the why, or the why behind the what. And it's something we've had so much fun.
Yeah. As somebody who sits in that chair, who's being quote unquote coached, how would you describe it? Like I could tell you what it is to be a life coach and what I do, but like as Erica, who's been through multiple sessions of coaching, keeps coming back. Like, what is it? Why is it valuable? What happens in these mysterious sessions that you keep telling all your friends about?
Yeah, I know. I've been so excited about this podcast because I feel like you're such a character in my life and in my stories. And I'm always just like, Amari, and people are like, but who is he? Like what? But like what?
Is
I
Imari
don't
in the
know.
room with us now, Erica?
Yeah, it's just you're such a character. So I've been. This is like your reveal, the Amari reveal in a way. Just feel like this is who I'm actually like working with and talking to. But
Yeah.
okay, I think one, I love that question, and two, so much of it for me is about accountability. And I remember I called you from Thailand in March, and I was winding down my big 3 months in Asia, and I was coming back to New York, and I was like, I cannot come back to New York without some guardrails, and like I need to put myself on train tracks and like have accountability about all of these things that I wanted to go pursue. And
Mhm.
I think yeah, I think at the end of the day, like what keeps me coming back to coaching, and specifically has what I found so much value in working with you is I am accountable, or like I show up every session and I know that even if I haven't done the thing that I was saying I was going to do or whatever, like we would have a really productive conversation about why.
Mhm.
And I know I wouldn't be judged, and like I wouldn't be in trouble, but we would like have a productive conversation about like, well, what is stopping the work from happening, and do we need to pivot, or do we need to like do something brave and like get over ourselves, which is a pretty good mix of both for me.
Mhm.
Pretty even split. Actually, maybe this time around it was a lot more like, okay, I just have to be brave and like go do it.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think that's probably what brought me to coaching in the very first place too, is like I just need an accountability. I need an accountability partner, and like like a challenger, like someone to like really help me stay honest. And
Mhm.
earlier when you were like, sometimes I have sessions where I'm like, I'm not going to work with you if you keep showing up unprepared. Like that's my worst nightmare, because I like, yeah, I just value your input so much. And I feel like a lot of what we've done is about accountability, but it's also a partnership. And I feel like I
Mhm.
truly have a partner in you as I'm working
Mhm.
towards things that I'm working towards. A partner in getting things done, but also a partner in helping like figure it out and workshop it and brainstorm. Especially this past
Mhm.
session was really about like semantics and defining like
Yeah.
what is brightsiding, or even beyond that, like what is my Eric Bogdan like philosophy, and like
Mhm.
how do I move through the world, and how does that inform the work that I do? And
Yeah.
yeah, I just think that's like pretty valuable, pretty big gift, and something that I get so much value out of. Yeah.
Glad to hear it. Yeah, we were really in the weeds this time.
Oh my god. I know. As I've been like reviewing my notes, I'm just like, whoa. Like the mad scientist notes of the past 3 months are so funny to me, and will someday appear in a
And
memoir, I'm sure. Okay, so I have one final question for you, Mari, which
okay.
is a question that you've asked me multiple times to
Oh boy.
challenge me to define my offering or whatever. But why
Mm.
would someone not work with you?
Damn. I love it being thrown back at me. Great game of tennis. Why would somebody not work with me? There's probably a couple of reasons. They don't want change. They don't want to be pushed. I think that there are probably other life coaches out there who are different flavors, right? Like you have coaches who are very in like the spiritual types, people who are very like trauma informed, who are just working through your past a lot. Maybe people don't like all the F bombs I drop in our sessions. Not at you. Just so everybody's clear. I'm dropping F bombs at Erica. So yeah, people might not like my style. I very much value the feeling of like camaraderie in
Mm-hmm.
my sessions. The whole like guru complex with life coaching isn't really, not a big fan of that. And maybe that's what somebody wants, right? So yeah, somebody would not work with me because I don't take the traditional path with it, that I don't do typical like certified life coaching approaches. Yeah. There's
And who
tons of
are you
reasons.
working with right now? Like, if you started out working with creatives, let's
Yep.
say, is there a certain archetype that you find yourself working with a lot right now, or maybe
Yeah.
like an ideal client that you have?
Yes, 100%. Yes, I'm no longer like focused on creatives and artists, but a lot of times people with like artistic or creative leanings end up at my door. And now they're just more so folks who are in entrepreneurial positions, or they're like highly successful at creative companies. Like, for
Mm,
example, like one of my favorite clients other than Erica. He's this like CEO of he's like a CEO of an architect company, right? So he's like a very big visionary, but he wants to learn how to like better lead, and he wants to better like incorporate his work life into his personal life. So it's people who are
mm,
highly ambitious
yeah,
people who are like comfortable with where they're at, or they're just trying to, coast. We should not work together. I
yeah.
work with people who
Can
are like,
confirm.
can validate. Yes. People who are like, yo, I have big dreams, big goals, and to do anything less than that would eat at my soul. I would say more than anything, ambitious folks, but
Yeah.
also people who tend to be creatively minded as well.
And would you say it's helpful for people to have like very specific goals from the outset with you, or is ambition enough? Like, or like, hey, I have all this ambition, but I don't really know what to do with it. Like, do you ever get that?
Yes, definitely. And I
Yeah.
don't mind that at all, because
Yeah.
even the people who come in to sessions with me and they're like, I know what my goals are, this is what I want to do. A lot of times in the first couple sessions with some very good questions, they're like, oh, actually what I really want is this.
Yeah. It's like
Most people when
actually
they
closer. Yeah.
Yeah, most people when they come in, like, they don't really know what they want. They just know they want more for
Yeah.
themselves and for life, right? Like, I remember our first conversation when you called me from, I think, Thailand. It was in that conversation where we were like, okay, it seems like there's like multi prongs that we're trying to hit here. We're trying to hit like the kind of white paper vibe where we want the validation and the legacy element. We want the creative element with the zine. We kind of built that out in the conversation. You had a general idea, but we were able to, like, through some questions, get specific about like, what are my actual goals here? Why am I actually getting into coaching?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I know I said that was the last question, but I have one more.
Okay.
You know how have we talked about my obsession with Pharrell? I promise. I'm like, this is going
Yes.
somewhere. Okay, yeah. So
I know it
you
will.
know that if I ever met Pharrell, I would ask him like, how do you stay motivated? And I'm just his
Mm.
biggest fan, and I love him so much. Who is your creative idol? Like, who do you look up to the most from a just like from a creativity perspective? And if or who's your creative hero? And if you met them, what would you ask them?
I am my creative hero, and I know how that sounds. And
Of course you are.
I knew that was going to give you a reaction. Like, I know I'm so aware of how that sounds, and it took me a minute. I had to be like, do I really believe this? Like, do I really feel this way? And like, the answer is honestly yes. Like, honestly yes. Maybe there's a version of myself that I aspire to that can execute at the level of my taste and my the vision that I have, and I'm still building towards being that person. But I truly just, I don't know of anybody who cares more than I do. And I'm not saying it's like who's more talented than me. It's like, that's not what I'm saying at all. There's people who are much
Yeah.
more talented than I am.
Yeah,
But
you care.
I
Yeah.
I truly, truly care about the things that I create. And I know that I know the intention of what I'm creating with. Right. Like, I
Yeah.
know I care to make it, and I know the intention of what I'm trying to do. And I just don't know anybody in that lane.
I love that answer. And I can confirm you do care so much. And yeah, as someone who values integrity so much, I think that's another thing that really makes me feel connected to you is the integrity that you bring to our sessions, to the projects you're working on the side. Yeah, just everything that you show up to and the way you move through life. I love
Thank you.
that about you. And I'm so grateful to you, and I'm so grateful I know you. So
Oh,
grateful for the
Erica.
work we've done. And I'm so grateful for this conversation and that now we have one that's immortalized and that everyone can glean some wisdom from and get a peek
Yes.
into the brain of Imari. So thank you
What's
for doing
happening
this.
behind closed doors with Imari and Erica sessions?
Oh my God. A lot of frustration on my, a lot of frustrated. I don't want to do that, but doing it anyway.
Yeah, I would say that you're over exaggerating how much you resist. I think that
Yeah.
I've experienced a lot of Erica being like, okay,
Yeah.
I'm
Okay.
going to do
Let's
this and I
go.
can
Let's
do
do
this.
it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Amari, anything else you want to share with the class before we close it out?
My passion at the moment, and I think for the next couple of years, is bridging coaching with experiences, taking my film background for creating worlds and social experiments and combining that with what I know in the coaching space. And so what that looks like is retreats. And I love hosting retreats. And I think, like I said earlier in the podcast, a well-designed experience like that can give you as much value
Yeah.
out of multiple
Yeah.
years of either therapy or coaching, whatever. It's just like be in the room with somebody who's designed an experience that can change your life. And so I'm hosting events and experiences and retreats now, one a month. It's going to be a 1 day in October, 1 day in November, a 1 day in December, and then a multi-day in January. So if anybody's interested in those, they should definitely reach out.
Where can they find you?
They can find me at imarituakli.com or be the protagonist.
Great. That'll go in the show
Yes?
notes. Yeah. I
Amazing.
love you so much. Thank you again for doing this. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode, and thank you so much to Imari for the, as always, beautiful and insightful conversation. If you have any questions about working with Imari or want to get in touch with him, all of the information on how to reach him is in the show notes, and you're also welcome to shoot me a DM or an email to learn more. Lots of big updates coming to the Brightsiding universe in the next month or so. The brand Brightsiding is being sunset this summer of 2025. So very bittersweet, but I'll be putting out a podcast soon to talk more about the decision to wind it down and more about what's coming next. So stay tuned for that, and I hope you have a great day. Lots of love. Thanks for tuning in again, and we'll talk soon.